In this video, we will discuss how to tweak third-party EAs, such as those offered by us at Prosperity Algo Solutions, to pass prop firm challenges and to get funding without infringing upon the prop firm's rules. Stick around to the end to receive a free expert advisor which is prop firm compatible and which you could use to pass your challenges. So, what rule am I referring to? Here, if you go to FTMO's website or the website of many prop firms, you will oftentimes see a rule that says if you intend to use third-party trading robots, you could infringe upon the rules if other traders are also using the exact same bots, as you might be taking the same trades. So, you as an EA user, what can you do to ensure that you stay on side of these prop firms' policies? Specifically, that's what we're going to walk you through today in this video. To do that, I will quickly open MetaTrader 5, where this is a back test of our Missile EA, which trades impulse candles from us at Prosperity Algo Solutions. But this is just showing a back test with every tick based on real ticks for a 1-year period. But what's more important for the subject of this video is to discuss different input parameters. And this might be a helpful guide not only for our EAs, but for whatever third-party EAs that you choose to use. Ultimately, I want to walk you through how you can configure some of the settings to slightly vary your trades over other users while still maintaining the integrity of the strategy. So here's an example of the Inputs tab for the Missile system. You can see that we do give some decent detail regarding how the strategy works. This is an impulse candle hunter, so effectively it's looking for a large impulse in the market, and then it will open pending orders using a trailing stop loss. Given this information, you can now customize the strategy to meet your trading objectives. We can perhaps start off with the impulse threshold. This is what the EA uses to define what an impulse is. This more generally can be seen as the trigger. It's the entry signal which will allow an EA to enter. Many different EAs offered by different developers will have a section related to this. They might call it trigger, entry signal, etc. And you as a user can perhaps come around and play with these different numbers, inputting different values to see how it changes the backtest. So here are default settings, but let's say, for instance, as opposed to using a candle size of 3, if we were to make this 3.5, for instance, you could then come here and run another backtest and see how the results would ultimately change. So really the first way to modify your trading system would be to change the entry criteria slightly to still have a very profitable system, but not taking exactly the same trades as other people. So here's an example where we switched the threshold to make it a little bit more or less sensitive, so it would only be taking trades with a particularly large impulse candle, but this would introduce some variety into your trading strategy. And you can always go back and press the defaults button in order to revert to the initial settings proposed by the developer. Ultimately, you could play with any of these variables here in order to add some variety and introduce some variety into the exact strategy you're trading. Another really interesting area to check out in our EAs or many third-party EAs are filters. Filters are not the trigger, they're not the entry signal. However, they are often another layer which developers will add to tell the bot when it's an appropriate time to trade. In the case of Missile here, we are using a machine learning filter, which you won't see in many bots, but a more common one would be the ADX threshold. So the ADX tells us when a market is trending and is quite useful for breakout systems. But in the case here, we have a threshold set to 25. If you were to set this, for instance, to, let's say, 40, that will introduce some variety to the system. I'm also just varying trade size here real quick. So now if we go back to our backtest graph, we can see that setting the ADX to 40 also once again changes the equity curve. So it's still a profitable system. You don't want to enormously change the parameters so that the strategy is completely different. However, tweaking filters can also be a great way to introduce some variety and to not go offside the prop firms. Now we can set it back to defaults, and we can go to the risk reward settings. In the risk reward settings up here too, we can change the ratio to the stop loss take profit. So here, there is no take profit. There is a start of trail because it's using a trailing stop loss. Currently, the ratio is 5-to-1, which works great for scalping systems and is particularly good for prop firms, as you can simply set your max daily loss to 1. However, let's say you wanted to introduce some novelty as you are trading prop firms. You could switch this from 0.25 to 0.19, for instance. You don't have to stick with nice round numbers too. As long as the same premise holds true, that the stop loss is much larger than the take profit, the system should still be profitable. Here I'll keep it at micro lots, so it's going to be, the equity curve is going to be very low, but the shape should still be comparable. Let's try this. Oh, as we can see, so you're still getting a profitable equity curve, but maybe switching it to 0.19 would not be your best option here. You could also switch it to 0.3 to 0.4 and just test out different ratios to stop loss take profit to introduce some novelty. The final area which I'll talk about here is your actual trade size. So here, instead of putting in micro lots or using a percentage of the balance, you could vary this to use larger trade size, for instance 0.15 lots. You could also set this to a percentage which is quite obscure, like a 0.8. This is likely the worst option to introduce some novelty, as prop firms won't necessarily view that as a different trade just by introducing lot sizing. However, it is something to perhaps keep in mind to introduce another bit of novelty, but these other ones here are definitely more important. So to essentially summarize, you can take an existing third-party EA and modify the trigger, so the impulse threshold. You can modify filters, and you can modify the risk-reward ratios in order to get something which will not be triggering the third-party EA rules at a prop firm. So you want to tweak the strategy to make it unique to you. Use non-round numbers, use 0.1s, 0.2s, 0.9s. Just try and introduce a bit of novelty, but without changing the strategy. If you purchase any of our EAs or even use our free EA, which we'll talk about shortly, we are happy to provide some guidance on how to do this. So please just drop us a quick note at info@prosperityalgosolutions.com, and we would be happy to provide some guidance on how to pass prop firms using our EAs. So stick around for the next short clip where we'll share an EA with you, and leave me a comment if you have any questions about this. Take care, have a great day. Before you click away, if you're looking to get a real expert advisor, here at Prosperity Algo Solutions, we're currently offering our Golden Time Bomb system based on automating the London breakout and opening range breakout 100% for free. Watch the pinned video to find out more and to get access.